Rob,
Nick,
oh my God, we're both here. That must mean that this is East Meets West, the show where you and I discuss contemporary Canadiana from our adopted homes in Calgary and Ottawa.
that might be the best intro we've ever had. I feel pretty good.
It's not exactly a high bar.
No, it's not. All pronounced correctly, that's really all it takes. Yeah,
Something
we're
like that,
back.
yeah.
What do you want to talk
Guess
about
who's
first?
back? Back again. Well, I mean, we were talking about suits off air.
We were, yeah.
Yeah.
I just got a suit this summer.
Did you?
Yeah.
And?
Well, I mean, it fits less well than it did when I got it. I got it when
Does
it fit pretty much perfectly, but that
does
was,
anything suit you like a suit?
no, I would say nothing suits me like a suit.
So I'm just gonna say our top story here,
Hmm.
or I feel like a natural segue into a top story would be life while underemployed.
Yeah, that's a great,
And
yeah.
on the note of suits, I have been working at the Bay and I am enjoying it, but it is not at all what I went to school for. What
No.
I went to school like three full times for. Hoping for a more technical field. But
Mhm.
it is interesting because they're shuffling me around a little bit to see where they want me, I guess, for
Sure.
the Boxing Week insanity, which I'm
Right.
sure will fall after Christmas. And I do know a lot more about suits now.
That's good.
Like in my day-to-day life, I walk around looking at suits and finding where they're not fitting right and thinking about what could be done to make it better.
Yeah.
Naturally, you don't just stop these people and hey, you got some pulling in the back there. You should drop the collar. Or, something like that.
I mean, you could, but yeah, a lot of people might not appreciate that.
They're so fickle. They're so fickle. I'm just trying to help them look nice.
Yep. By yelling at them in the street.
How else are you going to get their attention, Rob?
That's fair. I can't really debate you on that.
Yeah. It is a truth you can't refute.
Oh no.
Nothing suits you like a suit.
So underemployment, do you wear a suit to work or you just sell them sometimes?
Um, unless I get permanently stationed in the suit section, I just comply with the usual dress code.
Okay,
So if I sell suits forever, they would like to see me in a suit.
sure. And of course, you'd be required to furnish yourself with a suit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. With the employee discount, which is getting better,
Okay.
but which can only be accessed via their Hudson's Bay Mastercard or just regular credit card.
Right. That that's very intriguing. You'd think they would want to put you in a position where you need to buy a suit almost immediately.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the other thing, and this is just an issue for me personally. We did have a 1 day sale on Calvin Klein suits, and I think they're regular normally about $600 or so. They're
Okay.
100% wool. They're very nice,
Mhm.
but they don't fit my shoulders.
No matter what, they don't fit.
Well, they're whole suits.
Hmm.
So the way that works is the chest will be 8 inches off the waist measurement,
Right.
and so my chest is 44, which puts me at a 38 waist, which I'm not always. It depends on how sedentary I am at the time.
Yeah, sure.
But like sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But the problem is you do a 44, and so what happens is the suit kind of, this makes for great radio what I'm about to describe, but the suit
Mhm.
kind of goes off your shoulder tangentially with the shoulder pads,
Right.
and then the fabric drops to meet your arm.
Hmm.
But what happens with me is my shoulder just pokes out at that fabric a little bit, and that's
Right.
not a nice fit. It
Mhm.
causes dimpling up top between the shoulder pad and the actual uh, arm, and
Right.
it doesn't look nice. So 44 jacket. fits my chest perfectly, doesn't look nice on my shoulders. So I bump up to a 46 and it fits my shoulders, but I'm swimming just a little bit through my chest. And once you get down to the waist, I'm swimming even more.
Right.
And then it's a 40 pant, which
It's just too much.
is, yeah, I'm definitely swimming in that one.
Right. They have a thing, and this is my last suit. Yeah, they have a thing called suit separates, where you can get pants and a jacket separately.
They do, but like the suit sale was like 179 down from 600,
Wow.
and the suit separates were not that discounted. And
You know what you could do? You could get two full suits for a lot less than you would. Find another weirdly proportioned person and sell them the ones you don't need.
just on Kijiji, hey, I got a 44 jacket and a 40 pant. Who's in?
Yeah, somebody who's
Something like
very
that, yeah.
moderately proportioned.
Yeah, very stick shaped.
Hmm. I've thought for a while about starting a business. This is tangential but related. This would be primarily focused on shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and I would allow people to pick and wear whatever two shoes they wanted in my store, no matter the size, because normally people aren't exactly the same size in both feet, or not normally, but sometimes. And for
Yeah.
me, for instance, I'm somewhere between a half size and a full size different. And so people could just, in the end, it'll all average out. I wouldn't lose any money by by selling one shoe at a time as opposed to selling them together. But it just makes sense to me, especially if people have issues. Like for a long time, sometimes I still have it depending on the shoe, but where my toe on my right foot will wear out, like my toe on the instep will wear out way faster than on my left shoe.
Mm.
And so I would, in theory, go through right shoes faster than I would left shoes. And it'd be nice to be able to just go pick up a right shoe when you need one.
Yeah. I was going to say, I know that some places will let you mix and match the shoes a
You're
little
saying this
bit.
business already exists.
I don't think they let you pick up individual shoes though.
Oh, okay.
So maybe.
I would call it the other shoe, or on the other foot.
The other shoe.
Some shoe related pun. I've thought a lot about
Really
this.
big
To be honest.
shoe, maybe.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Nick, underemployment. I feel like this deserves probably an entire episode on its own, but I don't think we'll do that. Everybody I talk to who is under not everybody, okay, let's say between 50 and 75% of people I talk to our age say that the 25 to 30 bracket is at least 50 to 75% underemployed.
I would say that's accurate.
And I don't know if that's a failure of sort of society to overeducate people, or if it is just a symptom of the baby boomers being unwilling to leave their jobs and retire. But it seems like it's a problem that it seems fairly recent, and I don't know. It's very depressing to hear all these people. We had an interview on Ottawa that came out this morning with a person they went to school for I forget what it was now, something to do with literature or psychology or something related to that. And
I'm sure Miss Poirier will be so happy to know that you don't remember what she does.
I would just honestly have to look it up. It'd be very easy,
Okay. Yeah,
but it's just not right in front of me.
Uh,
Because we talked about so much stuff after that. We always talk about the thing.
You're such a wonderful host.
I remember a lot about the interview, just not that one particular detail. Anyways.
Oh, okay.
But so it strikes me as being very similar to me. I have a master's degree, and right now I'm not working, but I've been working in government, completely unrelated to my studies or my sort of core desires for job. And I don't know. You're the same way. How do you feel about it?
I've been trying to get into inspection for This will almost be it's getting on 2 years anyway. And
Mhm.
that said, I'm I have a strong suspicion I might be the health and safety rep for my floor now.
Oh, that's odd.
Yeah. Um, we had an inspection coming up, and like in my interview, I asked my boss what the health and safety culture at the Bay was like, and they do a lot of stuff. It's good. They
Yeah.
try and keep open lines of communication, which is something that's a good thing. And she asked because she was being moved to a new floor, the men's floor, and she looked at me and said, "Could you help me with all the audits and stuff like that?" It's like, I would love to. I actually really, because that's one thing I found I do like doing is I like helping with the health and safety things that are
Sure.
done.
Hmm.
Fun story. I once initiated a department wide review of their storage practices at Western.
Of course you did.
Yeah, totally. Um, but so I started doing this audit 2 days ago. What day is it now?
Today is Thursday.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, my week has just flown by. So Tuesday, I'm doing this. I'm doing this audit, and my boss comes up and says, "So, you in tomorrow?" It's like, I'm not scheduled to be. She's like, "The meeting's tomorrow." I'm
The
like,
meeting.
"Could you come in tomorrow?" Like, yeah, I mean, if you pay me, sure. She goes, "Oh, of
It's only
course,
fair.
absolutely." And so, on what was to be my day off, I ended up being in there for 3 hours,
Mhm.
and our meeting was like an hour. And then I spent the next hour like catching up with things that weren't labeled properly.
Nice.
Like, even if they had a workplace label, it didn't actually say much on it,
Hmm.
or it was like the workplace label with "Don't move from this section" written on it.
Right.
And it's like, it's not what they're for. So yeah, I've got them all labeled. Got I I managed to get space to put the first aid instructions on there.
It's pretty good.
That's good. I really enjoyed yesterday. It
That's
was a good
encouraging,
day.
at least.
Yeah, I told everyone you're like 10 to 20% safer now.
At least. Yeah. I I've decided after kind of tiptoeing around things of it, like people tend to keep their employment status close to the chest if
Hmm.
they have an interview or something, or if they're looking for a job or whatever. But after kind of tiptoeing around that conversation with lots of people over the last, I mean, let's say 3 years, I think it's easier and way, like it leaves you with a way better feeling to just talk about all this stuff like completely in the open.
Well, and honestly, it's a good way to try and work your network.
Yeah.
Like, I have my job at the Bay because I was talking to friends about not having a job, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to work at the Bay? Because totally get you in there."
Yeah.
Here I am, and I'm at least making some money.
How, like you in the earlier in the fall, you were writing a non-destructive testing test, right?
Yep,
What have you
still
heard
waiting.
that? That's crazy, Nick. That is just literally crazy. How has that not come back yet?
Well, Rob, I mean, you work in government, and I have worked in government, and I, really prided myself on trying to get results while I was there. I'm sure you were the same.
Mhm.
But government tends to have a reputation of not being terribly fast.
It's true. And here
What's
we are
funny is
months later.
a mutual friend of ours who won't be named here
Mhm.
said, "Oh man, I totally used to mark those. I would absolutely try and get yours to the top of the pile if I didn't know that that would immediately get it sent to the bottom of the pile."
How would that happen?
It's like, oh, you want me to mark this one first, eh? Well, now I'm marking it last. Is that what you want? Are you happy now? So
Are they
like,
doing these like once a week?
I don't know. I guess a lot of people are writing CETO. Either that or the election came up, and then, as happens in other departments, they were just like, well, we're not doing anything now.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I wrote an exam for, speaking of a transition to politics, wrote an exam for NSERC last Friday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a policy job. And the fact that this show exists prepared me perfectly for that exam. Basically, I had to take a scenario. The scenario was the day after the election, and I had to write a briefing about the results of the election. And we happened to discuss a lot to do with science policy in the immediate, what do you call the pre-math and the aftermath of the election? What do you call right before something when like what's the opposite of aftermath?
The preamble, the not preamble, the
Lead up?
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Anyways, we talked about the science side of things. We talked about the politics side of things. And I worked at NSERC for like a year, very close to this other job. And so I feel like I have no idea how well I did because I've done what I felt like was very poorly on tests and passed them. And I've done what I felt like was very well on tests and failed them. So I have no idea what to expect because they're marked on pretty obscure rubrics, but I feel pretty good about it. And it was right up my alley and the job seems to be right in my wheelhouse. So I'm hoping that that works out.
That'd be great.
Yeah. But it's very strange. I have another interview tomorrow, and the whole process of interviewing, it just seems like asking young people to prove themselves before giving them very little responsibility or training is kind of odd. And
Yeah.
people didn't have to go through that before. Like we're really, not we, but the last 10 years or so, the first generation that's really kind of had to prove themselves with data and with kind of all this information to back up. Because in the age before the internet, it was the only way to get a job was to kind of network and know people. And now they have these other ways, which are basically getting in the way of the typical job. Because again, like still, even though the internet exists, most people are getting jobs just through networking or knowing someone or already being in the company. It's just, It's very odd, the whole process.
And then, I don't know, the internet seems to have given rise to this paradigm in which they say, okay, give us your cover letter and resume. Mm-hmm. Also, we want them formatted exactly this way. Also, here's a questionnaire in which you fill out everything on your resume and cover letter so that our bot can search through it and exclude you. Also, I'm going to follow you up with a phone call that was this exact survey. Then we might have you in for an interview.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems
like
yeah.
It's like there's a lot of redundancy here, guys.
There's a lot of computers in the way of any individual person getting a job the new way of with the internet being involved.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, when you're talking about at least government employment, the tendency is now, oh, we'll hire this person for 3 months or for 6 months or even maybe a year, but we're not going to give them any job security for that time. And at any moment they could just be gone and we'll find someone else to do that. Mm-hmm. Or in my case, we may not even find someone to do that and it may just not get done.
And that was great.
Yeah.
Just get a phone call 6 months after a job. Like, hey, why isn't this done? Well,
I don't know if you noticed, but I wasn't around.
It's like, here's the thing. You stopped paying me, so I stopped coming into work. It's the craziest thing.
I'm trying to still follow up with that because I don't really feel like I did anything wrong. And yet, here we are 6 weeks later. I feel like I've now been blackballed. But who knows? Because
blacklisted,
completely opaque. Well, Blacklisted, blackballed. Blackballed is still a
Mothballed?
thing.
Blacklisted?
Dude, I mean, blacklisted is definitely a thing, but blackballed is also a thing.
Blackballed? Hopefully not blueballed.
Definitely not blueballed. Um,
Glad to hear it.
maybe, I'm finding the official definition of blackball seems to be something slightly different. But the top definition of blackball in Urban Dictionary is to conspire to ruin someone's reputation until they become unemployable and people refuse to associate with them. That's the one I'm referring to. Yeah.
Okay.
The other ones on Urban Dictionary are all very sexual.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking.
Yeah. But yeah, you have in the notes here you want to talk about the Syrian refugees. And I assume Canada's role in that.
Yeah. I mean, we could go with what was to be our first talking point, but we could talk about that too.
We can do whatever you'd like, Nick. This is your show. I'm just here.
I thought it was also your show. What are the power dynamics here? Also, why am I even here? Hashtag unwind walkout. Hashtag overthrow Rob. Is this your like little pittance like, here, Nick, you can be the leader of this show. Then you won't need to overthrow me. Doesn't that make you happy, Nick?
Not what happened at all.
Isn't that so much nicer? Isn't it? In this tyrannical dictatorship that is Unwind Media?
I feel like you're taking the public knowledge that, at least when it comes to Future Chat, you were asked to not be there the week you were sick, whereas in reality,
I told you that I was not feeling well and I didn't think I would be able to attend for reasons. Then you went on the air and were like, yeah, Nick's been banned.
Temporarily while you were sick because of sound effects.
Well, that's funny because you never told me I was banned, Rob. That's great.
I'm glad this is what set this whole thing off.
You are putting the dick in dictatorship, Rob.
It's completely unrealistic. You know what, Nick? Now we're not going to talk about the Syrian refugees yet.
Fine. You know what? Maybe I won't come back to Future Chat either. Maybe I'll sit here in my little fiefdom within the dictatorship.
How is that any better? You're just a sub-dictator.
Have Matt on. Start putting my science stories on vodka and equations again.
I mean, you could do that.
To like a quarter of the audience.
So, Nick, before we go back to politics, I want to talk about the other thing that is coming up, and that is Christmas. You used to, when you were living in Ottawa, you would go home for Christmas every year.
Oh, I went home a lot.
And well, yeah, but Christmas specifically, other holidays, like you would take.
Oh, the high holidays, I was home.
Yeah. And I have probably on average since I left Calgary gone home every 2 years. And
you didn't come home last year.
No, I did not. But my parents came.
Listeners cannot see my face going, huh? Huh?
It seems really silly to book a cross-country return flight for a few days at home when I am currently unemployed.
And why would you want to see Mike or I? Why would you want to do an on-location Future Chat where all of us were in one place at one time?
Yeah, exactly.
What possible benefit could be there? You know, you wouldn't have to sync the tracks, right?
I would really never have to sync the tracks other than very minimally. But basically, if I go and look right now at flights from Ottawa to Calgary round trip, this is a month out now, and they're actually cheaper than they used to be, but it's still $630 for the overnight flight and closer to $700, $750 for a regular human that would actually want to take a flight.
Note on that, you get so much lower radiation dosage on the red eyes.
I mean, you're talking about from the sun?
That, and well, yeah, from the sun basically, but I mean, have you ever looked at a YouTube video of like someone with not a Geiger counter, but a survey meter.
Hmm.
S- Similar sort of thing, just different mechanics. They take one of those on a plane with them, and you look at the dosage during a day flight, and then they go, so I would have to stop work like now if I was on the ground and doing work.
Right,
Because
but that
you reach your daily radiation limit just so quickly in a plane.
yeah, but you also the limits are very low on purpose so that you because these people are working every day as opposed to a flight which in general you'd take every like you wouldn't be there every day. You would I mean some people business
Yeah.
people
Well,
take flights all the time, but
long and short, a lot of pilots are sterile
yeah.
because of the radiation dose they receive. And at least one stewardess I know, she purposefully went for the night flights
Huh.
so that she would get the lower radiation dosage.
That seems odd because it's my understanding it's not necessarily gamma rays that do it. It's high energy particles in our upper atmosphere, right?
Well, radiation just. Did you know that gamma rays, or here's a question for you. What's the difference between a gamma ray and an X-ray, Rob?
The energy. Is
Did you
that
know that's not true at all?
what do you mean? I mean it's an
That's what
arbitrary
I said.
no, but it's an arbitrary distinction, but there's a considered line.
So, the standard physics definition is that a gamma ray is from a nuclear source and an X-ray is from something else. So a gamma ray specifically comes from a nuclear decay or whatever process, and an X-ray can come from, whatever else.
But an
Usually accelerating electrons industrially. It's astronomy where they have that line and they say, in space, they they're likely to come from nuclear process above this threshold,
Mhm.
and below it's probably something else. And
But
so
no, it's
that's where they
not
get the
something else. What
distinction
do you
from.
mean? That's garbage. What is this something else happening out there?
I well, like Bremsstrahlung radiation,
Right, but that how is that not a nuclear process? All that's going on out there
because
is star formation and
that's an accelerating electron instead of like a thing fusing or
right, but they're all the
zinc.
same fundamental particles. That distinction to me
Yeah.
seems
The photons are exactly the same, but they
yeah.
try to make a distinction based on the origin of the particle. And I totally got a question wrong on one of my in a CETO class, and I was like, "What do you mean it's not based on their energy?" They're like, "Yeah, it's based on their source." I'm like, "Okay,
In one specific
that is
domain.
the no. It's like physics. I looked it up. It's a standard physics definition." And so that was an area in which I was like, "Okay, this is stupid, but I'm going to remember to say it this way for the tests."
Yeah, exactly. It is stupid.
Slam down the paper.
I would be like, sure, you get to take a point off. Congratulations. This still isn't helping
You
me at
wouldn't say
all.
that to him though, because he's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
David, I want to say Swan, super nice guy. So you'd never get angry with him, but
So wait, it says here like this seems like a real-ish website trying to actually come up with like real things. This isn't some made-up site saying that gamma rays cause more harm to the human body than X-rays. Gamma rays have shorter wavelengths than X-rays. X-rays are emitted by electrons outside the nucleus, and gamma rays are emitted by the excited nucleus itself. X-rays are used in hospitals, but gamma rays are not. Like this, yes, it has to do with the fact that it's an electron
but you
outside the nucleus.
could like you and I know that easily you could build an X-ray tube or a synchrotron or something to generate photons that are much higher energy than gamma rays.
They wouldn't be much higher energy than
Well,
gamma
you
rays. They
could,
would be
and
in.
like gamma rays can be variable energies themselves. Because I think it's selenium has a much lower gamma ray energy than cobalt does. Selenium
Mhm.
75 and cobalt 60.
Yeah.
But it's like Yeah, so like you'll see these sweeping generalizations because they're like, oh, all of this is nuclear and this comes from an X-ray tube. And it's like, the X-ray tube is not the only source of X-rays that we have.
Mhm. But I mean, obviously, there's a synchrotron here in Canada that could presumably generate gamma rays if it wanted to. I'm not sure that it does.
Well, X-rays in the gamma ray range of intensity, or
But
not intensity, energy. Much
honestly,
higher intensity.
I have only ever heard it defined in terms of the amount of energy. You can call it whatever you want, but that makes it a useless distinction because all it does, like, obviously that's why astronomy has the definition the other way, because otherwise if you're looking out in space, you're like, oh, hey, there's a thing with a certain amount of energy. We have no way of knowing whether it's a gamma ray or an X-ray.
Look, photons.
Look, a ray. That's so weird.
Yeah, it's the weirdest, stupidest thing. Man, physics, get it together. Come on.
This one also says X-ray frequencies vary from 30 petahertz to 30 exahertz, and gamma rays are above 10 to the 19 hertz, which is, I think,
Why in God's name would you be using hertz in that range?
because they're frequencies. I mean, they're frequencies compared.
Yeah, but nobody uses the frequencies.
What would you use? The wavelength?
Yeah.
Still the same.
Is it? Is it?
Literally, yes. Assuming we're talking about a vacuum, which I
The
believe we
wavelength
are.
you can figure out penetration better because like Faraday cage things.
I mean, fine, but you can get.
The look of disdain in your eyes right now.
Yeah, but we're talking about like gamma rays can penetrate more deeply than, say, visible light.
Yes.
Because otherwise, why would this be bad for you other than just skin cancer? But also, like, so obviously, the depth of penetration does vary based on the wavelength,
Giggity.
but it also varies based on the energy differently than the wavelength. Because if something has this massive amount of energy, it will have more penetrating power.
Well, energy and wavelength being related, unless you're referring to intensity, and
Yeah,
that's not
intensity.
the case.
Right.
You
Amplitude.
don't get increased penetration from increased intensity.
What would the
Like not a higher rate of penetration.
no, not a higher rate, no, just a higher likelihood. No,
Yeah.
I don't even.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
if a photon has a 1 in 1,000 chance of making it through something, and instead of increasing energy, you just increase the number of photons dramatically, yes, you will get more out on the other side, just as a pure function of numbers.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking of if you crank up the gain on a radio transmitter, you would get more penetration, or if you turned up the power on a Wi-Fi router, you'd get better signal throughout your house, even because it's going through walls better. But yeah,
because you're throwing more photons at the problem.
Exactly.
You can't change the frequency that much,
No.
or it's not going to recognize it anymore,
Yep.
as I understand it.
This is a massive divergence, Nick. How did we get here?
What were we talking about?
Christmas?
Oh yeah, flights, Christmas.
Oh,
Nice. So you're not coming here. That's what I'm hearing.
right. Yeah.
That's upsetting.
It's upsetting, but also I feel like, and I've always said this, my parents know this, that I don't go home to celebrate Christmas. I go home to see my family. And I don't like it. Flights are always more expensive at Christmas. There's all kinds of extenuating things. Everyone's trying to fly at Christmas. That does tend to be the time when people get time off. But that's really
So long and short, I'd rather go in the summer.
Yeah, well, I'd rather go in the summer or at any time that isn't a peak flight season.
Oh man, I would totally go to Ontario in the fall again to go leafing.
Yeah. I assume, stemming from this conversation, I assume you're also not going home for Christmas this year.
I'm not going home for Christmas now.
How does your family tend to feel about that?
Uh, I mean, I don't think they're jumping for joy over it, but they understand.
Because, for instance, my mom called me. I spent probably 45 minutes to an hour with my mom on Monday or Tuesday, fixing her email.
Mm-hmm.
And so we talk all the time, and I taught her video chat like first year of university. So basically, I just talk to them and see them whenever I want, but I just can't hug them or physically spend time with them. But that's really all we're missing out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also enjoy the activities that I do with my family.
Yeah, sure. But very expensive. Doesn't seem like a good idea in my current economic climate. Also, according to employment insurance regulations, I need to be available to work. Although technically I could do work there,
I
so
was going to say,
probably
I am
won't.
available to work.
Yeah.
I can work here.
Yeah. Okay. We can talk about the Syrian refugees now. I feel like they've waited long enough.
Oh, bless you, Rob.
Thank you.
I really appreciate this, you know.
Mm,
I'll totally fight for you when the next king comes along.
that'd be great. Thank you.
No worries.
Unless it's Matt. Right?
We'll see what happens.
Fair enough.
So are you up on the Syrian refugees? What's going on with that?
I'm staying up as much as I can. They're trying to bring them in, but probably not going to get many in before 2016.
Well, the other thing was that the attacks in Paris happened,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden there were all these concerns being raised. Sorry. If I wasn't already talking, I would have muted that. Yeah, so the Liberals committed to having 25,000 before Christmas.
Mhm.
And after the Paris attacks, what was it? Vote Compass, I think, actually, or Vox, or some polling company, or a company that was doing some polling. They noted a dramatic shift in the opinions of Canadians,
Right.
in that they were much less likely to say, "Oh yeah, just bring them in, whatever," and they were more likely to say, you know, make sure that you really do the security screenings well beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've said, you know, they've basically moved the deadline back a month,
Right.
because they've said, you know, we can't do all this and do it to whatever standards and have them here before Christmas.
Right.
And
Which
just,
makes sense.
you know, just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And there's been little to no uproar about that because it was done due to a massive shift in public opinion.
Right.
But the other thing they've said, and that I'm critical of, is that they don't want single Muslim men, or single Muslim men, I guess, Syrians.
Yeah.
I don't know if they make a distinction based on religion, but they don't want single men coming over, single men without families.
Yep.
And I see why they're doing it, but I don't like it. Because, I mean, say for whatever reason that you and I needed to flee Canada.
Yeah.
Like, I guess the communists were getting uppity and really upset with the bourgeoisie. Not that we are the bourgeoisie, but
No.
maybe they had it in for people that liked science. And so, as members of the future chatters, you, Mike, and I have bullseyes on our backs.
Right.
So we had to get out. I mean, Mike, yeah, he's got a wife and a child. They'd be like, yeah, that's cool. Come on over.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, I guess I'm also common law now. But, I mean,
I'm also married now, so.
yeah, I kind of forgot that things happened. Okay, say that Jim Bob, other future chatter, or
Mm.
Matt, say Matt was here for whatever reason, and he wanted to get out. What's he going to do?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Matt's going to be radicalized and want to kill people because that doesn't sound like Matt. But what are they supposed to do? Like, I'm sure there are men that want to get out because they fear for their lives.
Yeah.
And I think they are allowing homosexuals to come over because that
Sure.
ISIS isn't big on homosexuality.
Mhm.
But in absence of other reasons, they're just not coming over.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan. I
No,
don't
I,
I don't
I
like it.
don't think that's a very good process, especially I hadn't heard the homosexual exception, which seems like
I think that's there. I'll try and
yeah.
Google it quickly.
So I find it really odd because I've been saying this since this whole thing started. You can't like nobody is saying they want extremists to be brought into our country. And nobody is saying that anybody who isn't a refugee should be brought into the country. But we want to be able to accept any and all refugees. And the sticking point should be, how do we tell these people apart? Because it is very difficult. Someone can very easily pretend to be a refugee and not actually be one. But everyone's getting caught up in saying, should we let refugees in? Obviously, the answer is yes, we should let refugees in. The only discussion topic should be, how can you tell? And
The
if you end up with
radicalized from the non-radicalized,
exactly,
I think.
how do you tell apart if you bring a family across, you bring children and two adults.
Yeah, maybe the family is radicalized.
Yeah, how
Maybe
would you
lone
know?
women are radicalized. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, they're often subjugated, so I don't know
Yeah.
how often that would happen, but
Mhm.
like it's technically possible.
Yeah, it seems fairly straightforward because they are very savvy to these methods of doing things, and also our government and governments around the world are very good at screening these people. Like it's
Mhm.
not an easy process to be designated a refugee.
That's my understanding anyway.
Yeah, that's every indication we've been given, and also the lack of refugees or the lack of extremists committing terrorist acts outside of kind of ISIS fighting ground is non-existent, I would say, with maybe a small asterisk I might not be aware of, but that it doesn't happen. You're much more likely to get a Christian extremist committing violent acts than you are a Muslim extremist or any other type of extremist in North America.
Or just, extreme or just terrorists just
Yes.
because.
Right.
But yeah, so I don't like it.
Mhm.
And this is based off an episode of Stuff You Should Know. Great podcast. We should shout them out publicly
We just did.
because clearly they need the boost, right?
Yes.
Um, we have dozens of listeners, dozens. Um, but they did an episode on racial profiling, and they said that racial profiling really does a disservice to whatever administrative force,
Mm.
because I guess the general advice is you shouldn't profile based on race.
Yeah,
You should profile based on shady behavior.
absolutely. And that, yeah, obviously.
Yeah, so like maybe it should matter less whether or not they like to put penises inside them. And it should matter more if they like to put bombs other places.
Mhm. Yeah. I just want to point out I'm here on the iTunes charts right now and for podcasts. The number one podcast in the iTunes directory. Can you guess what it is?
This American Life.
Nope, that's number 4.
Cereal?
It is Stuff You Should Know.
Oh.
Serial is number 6.
I remember for a while they were always coming up second
Yeah.
to This American Life,
Yeah.
and they talked about it on the show.
And that obviously put
Rats,
them over the top.
clearly.
Yeah. But obviously, this is a very difficult situation. Nobody is trying to say that this is an easy thing. And anyone who says we just shouldn't let any refugees in, we shouldn't let anyone external in, is short-sighted and
Kind of
trying.
forgetting the bulk of Canadian history.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The bulk
Like
of all history.
I'm pretty sure my like some of at least some of my ancestors came to Canada because of the Irish potato famine.
Mhm. And that's,
They were seeking refuge.
yeah, I mean,
There was a famine.
yeah,
I was going to say we let them in, but granted they weren't happy about it.
right,
Like
exactly.
Irish need not apply signs and stuff like that. Also begat the Bytown brawls. Interesting little bit of Ottawa history that I have found nowhere other than on Doors Open days, in which Ottawa was dominated by Francophone lumberjacks
Mhm.
because it was a lumber town before it became the capital.
Yeah.
And a bunch of Irish showed up looking for work, and the Francophones were very insular and they didn't want the Irish taking their jobs.
Yeah.
And so the Irish, being unemployed and not having a whole lot to do, tended to drink and then get angry and then fight the Francophones. And
Right.
that begat the Bytown brawls.
It's,
Interesting period of Ottawa history.
it sounds like a regular thing.
Yeah, people got drunk and angry and fought a lot
Huh.
for a while.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't see that happening anymore, at least not in that kind of cut and dry way where you have one group fighting against another group, which I guess is positive.
I guess.
Yep.
I
So,
mean, when you can cut down on violence in the streets, it's usually a good thing.
yes, I would say that's unequivocally true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can agree to that.
Yeah, but I would be willing to. I've been looking honestly for a way to talk about this in the least political and least religious way possible. It just like refusing to allow people to escape from a violent extremist, essentially, I don't even know how it's run structure wise, but it seems like either a dictatorship or an what do they call it, oligarchy, where it's just a few people making decisions and deciding kind of what direction the group is going to go. Like, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you, people who want to escape from that, why wouldn't you take them in, given that their whole goal is to kind of scare people in those areas, in those countries, and cause them to become, I guess, disenfranchised with their current political power.
Mm. And isn't that what we've always done? Been like, hey, don't like the terrible place you're living? Come on down.
Yeah. That, I mean, that's been, if there has ever been a Canadian dream, that has been it, I
Yeah.
would say.
You know, on the Statue of Liberty, it didn't say this originally, but it says, give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free.
Mm-hmm.
We've basically been doing that too.
Yeah. I would say we've been, I don't even know if we've been more successful, but we've definitely been successful in doing that. But that being said, every generation has had to fight against people who didn't want it to happen when they themselves were the generation that kind of benefited from coming here.
Yeah. Yeah. Those immigrants, they'll take our jobs, you know. Never
Until they
mind,
are
but
us.
they will also be spending money and contributing to the local economy.
Yeah.
It just there's that fixed number of jobs, Rob. Doesn't change. Not now, not ever.
Especially not if more people come.
That's true.
The Tim Hortons that
That's
exist
true.
will just get busier. There will be no new Tim Hortons.
Ah,
There really seems to be a Canadian thing. Just love our coffee. We excluding me. That was
I
the
was gonna
royal
say,
we.
except for I actually watched the Ask Rob video again not
Oh
long
yeah,
ago.
I should do that. Haven't watched it in a while. Nick, how about we switch gears here and talk about something that just happened this morning? I don't even know if you looked at this at all. I posted a link.
I have
Uh,
not looked at this.
so they've updated this article with it used to be home to a live video. Now it's home to an article about what the live video was talking about to do with the
Mm.
Canadian Senate. The Liberals, if as you'll recall, made a pledge to reform the Senate to hopefully put an end to partisan appointments and make it at least somewhat, if not democratic, at least make it fact-based and evidence-based and merit-based. Who the new senators will be, and apparently there are a bunch of Senate vacancies, and
Yes,
so
there are. There are a
yeah,
lot.
they announced that they're going to be they're overhauling the appointment process, and they're appointing a committee of there will be a total of 5 people for each Senate vacancy,
Hmm.
or for at least for each Senate panel. 3 of the members will be constant and nonpartisan, and then two, if I'm remembering correctly, because I was just watching this live, there'll be 2 more ad hoc members from the province that the senator is being appointed to.
Hmm.
So there's going to be a bunch of different categories and criteria for senators. For the first 5, apparently there are 5 that they've targeted as being high priority. So they're going to test this method out with the first 5, 2 in Ontario, 2 in Manitoba, and 1 in Quebec. And then so that's the kind of transition period. And then they're going to take any lessons learned from those 5 appointments with this 5-person thing, and then they're going to make suggestions for a permanent process. And I really like this. They're talking about making sure that there's regional representation, making sure there's gender representation, and making sure there's ethnic representation in the Senate. And basically, with this 5-person committee for each appointment, the 5-person committee will recommend 5 names, a little short list for the prime minister and the cabinet to make an appointment. So technically, there will still be an appointment, but it will be from a short list of 5 people who are considered qualified by an independent committee. So they can choose whoever they want. And after this first 5 high priority appointments, they are going to be opening up the process so that literally any Canadian can be considered for a Senate seat. Might not even be Canadian, but I feel like it would be. It's very strange. And so basically the 4 main criteria for Senate appointments are a record of achievement in community service or professional work, a record of ethics and integrity, bringing perspective to the Senate that as an independent institution, and understanding the constitutional framework of the Senate, which is pretty. Yeah, it does say here Canadians, being a Canadian citizen is also a requirement, but it's pretty cool.
I like it a lot.
Having heard that, does anything jump out at you?
It's it's another thing where the new government has just done something, and I go, yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah,
I
I'm.
mean,
Sorry, go
I'm
ahead.
still not terribly pleased with what they're doing with the Syrian refugees, like lone males. I did some live follow up. They are accepting gay men
Okay.
because you can't lie about that, right? That's just one
You
of those
can't.
things.
They're obviously going to have a very rigorous
What?
testing process wherein
Are
they
you
ensure
familiar
you
with
are
the
gay through some sort of mechanism.
Are you familiar with the fruit machine?
No.
I believe it was either the RCMP or CSIS, probably the RCMP because I don't know that CSIS existed yet. Um, it was a machine that was designed to detect homosexuality.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was during the Cold War when people were worried that someone would be blackmailed because of their homosexuality.
Right.
And so they made you take a gay test before doing whatever. I'm not sure.
Hmm.
Long and short, we don't use it anymore.
I'm embarrassed we ever used it, if I can be honest.
Yeah, me too.
It sounds less reliable than a lie detector test.
Um, I'm gonna say it might be more reliable.
Interesting. What did it
Yeah,
measure?
I think pupil dilation and blood flow to the genitals while showing people various erotic pictures.
Hmm.
That's, if I'm recalling correctly, that's what they did.
This seems like really just a test of or sexuality fluidity more than anything else.
Something like that.
Is it like if it moves at all,
There's
you are
like
gay?
an absolute cutoff on the
Yeah,
Kinsey scale. Like
that's so weird.
the like testing criteria is four and no more or something like that.
Yeah. What if? How would you? I still think
Higher
that's
than
really
two and
unreliable.
two. Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
You're just sitting there like trying not to think, like trying to think about sandwiches or baseball.
Yeah, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. You
Just
would
be
think,
like,
I don't know about you, but I would think an adult male or female, whatever, would be able to look at an erotic picture and not become aroused if they needed to, or even if they wanted to, or even if they were in an interrogation room hooked up to a bunch of sensors.
I
It,
mean, I guess it depends on whether or not your hips lie.
it's true.
Shakira, Shakira, depending on her sexuality, would just fail easily because her hips don't lie. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Such a weird. Trying to test anything as though it's black and white is never going to work.
a gayicity chart.
Oh, that's so weird. Yeah, there's also apparently the first thing they're going to do in when Parliament sits again. I forget if it's the Senate or Parliament. They have to name the speakers as well.
Hmm.
One of the major, one of the I guess preliminary primary candidates for Speaker of the House of Parliament was Maurice Bélanger. He's the candidate, their liberal candidate from my riding, and he just found out that he has ALS. Like
Oh,
shortly after the election, he was diagnosed, and one of the first things it does is take out your uh, vocal, uh, whether it targets your vocal cords or just your ability to successfully make loud sound. Um, Pretty devastating, and he's going to stick around, but obviously he's not going to be able to be Speaker of the House. It's
hmm,
yeah, pretty rough news. He's been an MP for a really really long time in Ottawa Vanier.
hmm. That's it's not great news.
No, you never like to hear about people who've done. I mean, obviously he's done a good job because he keeps getting reelected, but you never like to hear about that kind of thing happening to someone who is pretty much universally loved in Parliament.
Yeah, it's hard to have Schadenfreude with super nice people, right?
Yeah, for
And
sure.
just in outrageously tragic circumstances.
Yeah, I mean he was elected, and we just got in our mailbox a little thank you message and pledge to continue to serve the riding in every capacity he can, and nice little message. And then it was like a couple days after that, earlier this week, that the news came out.
It's really nice.
Yeah. Um, I guess in theory, we should wrap up soon. I do want to talk a little bit about we're coming up. There's about a week or two, week and a half, till we hit the 1 year anniversary of this show. But also, you have a tweet here that you put in that you thought it would be interesting to discuss, and I also think it'd be very interesting to discuss maybe before we do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm really not sure how much discussion there is to come of it,
Mm-hmm.
but Kent Hare, Minister of Veterans Affairs, Associate Minister of National Defense, and guy I worked with. Oh, where'd that tweet go? It's terrible because I actually have the link, but I'm insisting on going through the feed for it. Kent Hare has expressed his solidarity with Stoya.
Mm-hmm.
And for listeners that might not know, Stoya is a pornographic actress.
Mm-hmm.
And she has alleged that former partner and also porn star James Dean raped her at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kent's tweet is that fear too often silences the many. It's when the few stand up we hear the truth. Never be afraid to speak out. Hashtag solidarity with Stoya. Hashtag Canadian Poly. Or CDN Poly, however you pronounce that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I believe that this is the first time that a Canadian politician has expressed solidarity with a porn star.
Yeah. I would think
former
so.
porn star at this point.
Yeah. She's also now a journalist. She's a columnist for what site is it? I'm going to get it wrong if I don't look it up. She writes advice column for I'll find it later. But yeah. We should point out she's one of, I think there's 7 women in total that have now said this, that have not come out.
Oh, I did not catch that.
Yeah. There's a lot that goes into this. And I mean, this profession tends to get belittled, and even though pretty much everyone has at least some knowledge of it, people tend to look down on people in porn.
Yeah.
And sort of think that, I mean, the obvious thing here is, the obvious thought here that most people will jump to is, oh, well, she obviously wanted it. She's a porn star. There's no like, and it just seems like, how can you?
It's like your profession doesn't negate your ability to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, oh, you know what? I'm going to pull a toplessness thing again. I don't think we've talked about prostitution on the show yet, have we?
I don't think so.
No, but I've really wanted to talk about that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the Supreme Court right now they have ruled that Canada's prostitution laws are unconstitutional.
Huh.
Because under the criminal code, there is nothing that prohibits actual prostitution.
Okay.
But it is illegal to solicit. Right. So to actively say that you're trying to sell it, it's illegal to purchase it, as far as I know. And it's, what is it? It's illegal to like live off the proceeds of it. And it's illegal to operate a bawdy house, BAWDY house. So the crux of the Supreme Court's justification was that prostitution is not illegal, but you have made everything around prostitution illegal.
Yeah.
And especially like the operation of a bawdy house, some of those things that you've outlawed could keep prostitutes safer. And if you haven't outlawed it, then you can't compromise the safety of these people.
Right.
From a legal standpoint. And that's exactly what's happening. And it's like saying that, it's a legal profession, so they are no less deserving of the protection of the law than any other legal profession.
Right.
And I think it's like similar kind of thing with porn stars, because, they're both getting paid to have sex with people. It's just there's a camera and
Yeah.
involved in one of them. And it's wrong.
Yeah.
And this
There's
is also classic Kent. Like he's well known at Servants Anonymous, like
sure.
as having offered assistance to anyone that needs it,
Right.
kind of thing.
Huh.
Yeah.
There's a there's a Family Guy episode. I've only ever seen the clip. I haven't seen the actual episode it's from, where like I think it's like cops bust in to some hotel room or something, and they're busting this prostitute with a guy, and then he pulls out a camera. He's like, "No, we're filming it," and they're like, "All right, we'll see you later." It's such a
Yeah.
weird distinction to make.
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, yeah, that's it sucks that like these actresses, if the allegations are true, have had to deal with this kind of thing. And
Mhm.
it's really terrible that they haven't been willing to speak up because there's so much shame involved when there
Right.
shouldn't be any at all.
Yeah.
And like even anyone who's sexually assaulted,
Yeah.
it's there's so much shame involved and people don't want to talk about it regardless of gender. Like
Yeah. Regardless of any kind of circumstance.
and it's a shame that our society is structured in a way that, you know, people would have shame associated with that.
Yeah. By the way, the publication, her column, her advice column is every 2 weeks on The Verge, and so she takes questions and questions of a sexual nature and answers them. It's pretty interesting. I've not read all of them, but I read them every once in a while when they come up interesting in my RSS feed.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also have strong feelings on Canada's prostitution laws.
Right.
It seems that a profession that predates agriculture isn't going to go away anytime
No.
soon.
It's
And man, maybe regulate and tax it
yeah.
because I'm sure regulation would help. Like it would help offer protection to citizens in a particularly vulnerable state.
Yeah.
And yeah,
The fact that this profession probably tends to skew towards more females being involved, I think also probably has something to do with it. I think if it was if men tended to be prostitutes more than women, you would probably find it reforming pretty quickly. Just like if men got periods, there would be like medication and all this kind of stuff for it just all over the place. Like there'd be a pill for it already that you could just completely get rid of it, like there is for erectile dysfunction. And I know there are obviously there's birth control pills, but I mean you still get a period on birth control. Just talking about how with our male dominated culture, there's all kinds of things you don't even really think about every day that affect women that don't affect men because the system is built that way.
yeah. Although I was going to say there are methods of contraception which will prevent you from getting a period for a very long time.
Mm.
Um, one being the IUD.
Yeah.
And I actually remember reading an article where a guy was saying, well, everyone should just get an IUD because it's not really that invasive a procedure.
Are you kidding me?
I was going to say, I know a few people who have gotten an IUD and
It's surgery.
yeah, like they're in pretty rough shape for a while afterwards.
Yeah.
Like I can't, because I've obviously never have one, not having a uterus,
Mhm.
but they're laid up for at least a day.
Yeah. It's not just a matter of taking a pill. It's
Yeah, it's
much
not like, oh yeah, I just have an IUD now. I'm fine. Let's go for a jog. It's it's not like that at all.
yeah. And they're things are getting better, obviously, but it's taken an insanely long time, and this is just one of many things that where that comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Well, I guess unless you have more to say on any of the things we've discussed, I feel like we can talk about. I'm very satisfied with a year of East Meets West. I This is the 13th episode. I feel like that's a good spot to be at after a year. We did half as many as promised, but only half as many as opposed to, you know, doing
None at
four.
all, I guess. Also, I mean, for a good chunk of that time, my all my political, you know, energy was it certainly had an outlet.
Yeah,
Say that.
yeah, exactly. I believe from May until October or June until October, there was just nothing.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. But yeah, how do you feel after a year?
Um, with East Meets West,
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. I like doing it once every so often.
It's nice having an outlet, especially when there's less work or no work. I don't know what my life is going to become when I have, employment that I can count on year to year and a family.
Can you imagine? Wouldn't that be so nice?
My life would be so different.
Having actual job security? Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
I'd like to think that I would keep doing this because it's a very useful outlet, and at least in current form, it's pretty low stakes. But get to
Uh,
speak your
Dozens of
opinions.
followers.
Exactly.
Dozens.
But I like it. I'm
Yeah. No,
satisfied.
I'm pretty happy with it. I I enjoy having guests. I feel like
Yeah.
we could have guests on a little more often potentially.
Yeah. The trouble is obvious, but yeah, recording equipment is rare.
And schedules, they're also an issue. Yeah,
And
it's fun. We've done 13. What does that equate to? Like once a month?
exactly once a month. Although we did like 3 or 4 in the weeks before and after the election, and there's a 3 month gap.
That is true. Well, it was a big week.
It was a big week.
If there was ever a time that East meets West was needed.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right.
Also,
Well,
brief note before we leave, just small personal story that I thought was fun.
of course.
Um, Still doing the strength training thing
Yeah.
with chins and dips, just trying not to be outrageously sedentary and getting to that 40-inch waist.
Sure.
Um, Receiving a lot of compliments at work,
That's good.
like from random customers.
What?
Guy asked me if I did martial arts the other day.
Probably
Like,
hair.
no, not at all. He's like, oh, you look like you got the build for it. I was like, oh, stop. I think I've had a couple people ask me about my workout now.
Okay.
That's interesting. So, I mean, feels good, man.
No kidding. I wanted to ask actually, I was curious. I didn't put it in the notes because it would have only taken one word. But how's the Soylent thing going for you?
Actually, now that I'm working, I consume so much more of it.
Sweet.
It's like it is kind of sweet because I blend in the blueberries and the strawberries.
What kind of percentage of your intake is that?
It depends on the day. It could be anywhere from like a fifth on a day where I just, you wake up, you have some Soylent, and you eat whatever for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
To, oh God, I'm gonna have like this really oddly timed shift in my day for 8 hours. So I'll wake up, have Soylent as per usual, take some Soylent for my break, come back home at lunch and grab more Soylent.
Right.
Just, because it's fast and nutritionally balanced, which is exactly why I like it. And on those days, it could be between 80 and 100%. I don't think I've had a full 100% soylent day so far. Like I've
Okay.
usually had just something else, a little
Yep.
bit of something else,
Hmm.
anything that I could chew. But yeah, it gets pretty high some days. How about you?
I am still at, let's say, 30 to 33% of calories, maybe 25 to 33%. One day I had it twice, but I don't mix anything in. I never have. And it's usually my lunch, my middle of the day kind of thing.
Okay. I also I've found that it actually changed my eating habits somewhat
Yeah.
because like it recommends 500 calorie meals
Yeah.
and being a 2000 calorie pouch. I mean it looks like four meals.
Yep.
Four meals seems like a good thing. And I've actually started splitting up my food intake. I was doing this a little bit on a political campaign, just kind of unwittingly.
Hmm.
But I've started splitting up my meals more. So I'm having more like four smaller meals throughout the day.
Right.
And I like it a lot because just the three meal paradigm, I've never been really good at it.
I believe
I'm
it.
always if I wait till lunch, I've basically lost an hour of productivity just because I'm so hungry I can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
Unless I'm, up moving around that kind of thing and I don't focus on it nearly as much.
Sure.
But like, yeah, I've never really understood just the three meal paradigm. Having meals at like 7, 11, 2 to 3, or no, like 7, 11, 4, and 7, or around.
Yeah.
It's just always seemed much better to me.
That's fair.
And so this has formalized it just a little bit. And I don't know. I like it.
Makes sense to me. Yeah. I've been eating a lot less the last 2 months, and I'm fine with it. Yesterday, for instance, I had what I would call dinner, what normal people would call probably an afternoon snack, because people eat way too much food for meals. Um, and then I ended up getting Subway, so I had a 6-inch flatbread sub. About an hour or 2 hours maybe after that, and that was way too much food. Like I was completely full, and that is just unthinkable a couple months ago.
How much exercise are you doing right now?
Not tons.
Okay.
Probably half an hour of walking a day, and then I have a couple physical, like dodgeball, for instance,
All right.
once a
Yeah.
week.
So, I mean, I don't know. If I do any sort of cycling or strength training, just a 6-inch sub is good,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure I could deal well with less.
yeah, it's good, and basically the fact that I hadn't really done much that day meant that the other stuff I ate just pushed it over the top. Normally, a 6 inch is
Yeah.
like, yep, that's enough food.
Also, oh my God, the jeez, working retail and walking around for an 8-hour shift.
Yeah,
Wow, that's something.
I believe it.
It's burns a lot of calories. It's interesting.
The life of not an office worker.
Yeah, though, I mean, if I do get a job as a CETO, it's going to be walking about as much, just
Yeah,
for different reasons.
sure,
There's a lot of there's a lot of walking back and forth to flick switches and things.
sure,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So yeah, are we good for today?
I think so.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you in the new year of East Meets West.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, you can check out unwindmedia.com/EMW for all the episodes of the show and figure out how to subscribe to the podcast if you want to listen to more episodes. or to follow us on social media.
Use the hashtag overthrow Rob or unwind walkout if you want to express your solidarity with me in saying that Rob puts the dick in dictator.
And if you want to use Slack, message me.
Ah, no, don't use Slack. Ah.
All right, bye everybody.